If you are somebody who has the habit of gets home in the afternoon or the evening and is immediately raiding the snack cupboard, even though dinner's just a couple of hours away, then you are going to love today's Live at Lunch, because I'm going to share with you the most common mistake I see, and I'm going to give you a really practical tip to take away today to begin implementing immediately. For those of you who have not met me before, hello, my name's Helen. I am a coach who helps people break free of yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and body shame. And today I'm going to give you a little morsel, a little bit of freedom nosh that you can begin to use if you struggle with those things and you want to break out of that cycle. So admittedly, 5 p.m. Eating, this is generally the danger zone. It's the time I hear most commonly that people are struggling. And admittedly, it can take quite a bit to change that habit loop, because oftentimes it is habit loop and usually paired with hunger and exhaustion, two extremely dangerous triggers when we are trying to break free of impulsive overeating. So let me just share one really great tip with you today. You can hear I'm a bit ill. I've got a little bit of flu at the moment, so I'll keep it really short. But I want you to know that it's going to take a few attempts at this and then some really dedicated repetition to change this habit loop. But it can be changed, even though it's the time of the day where you're heading home hungry and you're probably pretty exhausted after a long day. And it can be hard to implement new strategies and find the energy and find the willpower to change things at that time of day. But let's start with this simple tip. So the most common thing I hear people say when they tell me about their overeating in the afternoons is they will tell me a story leading up to it, and it'll sound something like, da, 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 I got home and I was starving, or I was ravenous. When our body hears those words in our mind, even if we're saying it out loud, oftentimes we get home and go, I'm starving. And we say these words without thinking much about it, but our body's listening to everything we say and everything we speak. And a body that is not only hungry, but now is being told that it's starving is going to go straight into survival mode. And now you don't have to believe me, but I've done this work for many, many years now. I've been through my own journey, and I've worked with probably hundreds, if not close to 1,000 different people, helping them change their relationship with food. And if there's one thing I'm certain of, it's that the physical, the mental, and the emotional, they're all talking to each other all the time. What you do to one, you do to another. So if we think the thought, I'm starving or I'm ravenous, then our body reacts accordingly, and our emotions react accordingly. And in fact, I came off a call with a client earlier today, and we were talking about this exact scenario, and she was actually in that space right in that moment. I was so lucky to be on a call with her while she was in that place of exhaustion and hunger. And she actually said the phrase, I'm starving. I haven't eaten for hours. I think she had a busy afternoon, hadn't had a chance. It happens, right? We don't always get to feed ourselves in the way we would most like, perhaps. But she'd arrived home. She was really hungry, but she jumped on the call with me, and we got to catch it in the moment. And I asked her, what do you feel physically is going on with you right now? She described, and I think a lot of you will relate to this, that when we're in a place where we feel starving, she described like a void in her tummy. Brilliant. She didn't have any gurgling, any rumbling. That can happen too. She didn't feel any nausea or anything like that. You might have noticed that. Just notice the physical. But she noticed there was another energy there inside her body. And she didn't know quite how to describe it for me. And she said, desperation. And there it was. Her body was in a space of panic, wasn't it? It's in a space of, I have to get food now. I am starving, which means death is imminent. If we are starving, then we are close to death. And it's dangerous. And our body, our nervous system's picking up on that. And it's going to get all of our focus into what can I eat and eat fast now. And I'm sure everybody listening knows what that feels like. It's a very common human experience when we get really hungry, get really dialed in, and all we can think about is food. And so here's the tip that I'm going to give you, and then we'll build on that ever so slightly. But the first thing you can do, and the quickest thing to begin to train yourself to do, in fact, I've done it probably about 3 or 4 times already on this live, is when we hear the words, I'm starving, we replace it with the phrase, I'm very hungry. Now, that might sound like a really lame tip and really like non-useful, but trust me, that simple phrase from I'm starving to I'm really hungry will take that energy of desperation down a notch. What we say to ourselves, our body is always listening. And if you've heard about epigenetics, it's essentially what they realized. We thought for years that our genetics determined everything about us, but actually, epigenetics, the study of epigenetics, has proved relentlessly that it is the perception of the environment that determines the switching on or switching off of genetics. And that's what I see so often in the work that we do. That our thoughts are really our environmental perception. In many ways, our body is blind to what's actually happening, and it is filtering its perception through the thinking and the meaning and the words that we use. And so it's so important that if we can take that energy of desperation and panic down from a level 10 to a level 9, just by changing the phrase, I'm starving, to I'm hungry, that could be the difference between unleashing the 5 p.m. binge monster in the snack cupboard, or being able to take a deep breath, check in with our bodies, find out what it wants to eat, and move a little bit calmly and more slowly through that moment, because in that moment it can be quite overwhelming. We want to eat quickly and get it in fast. I'm acknowledging that being extremely hungry is challenging. It's challenging for everybody. And I don't know if you've noticed, when you're extremely hungry, let's say you get to a restaurant, you've been waiting for the food and it finally comes, and you're just eating so quickly, like everybody goes quiet and we just eat. And it's sometimes you might even look at the plate and think, this is never going to be enough. I'm going to need at least 2 portions of this. I'm starving, right? But as you eat, you realize, oh no, actually I'm okay. I'm okay. We're all good. But that's the power of that sort of survival mechanism that kicks off in our body when we are actually hungry. And what's interesting about this conversation is the work that we do is about feeding ourselves appropriately when we are in fact hungry. In fact, all of the work of eliminating emotional eating is so much easier when we are satiated and well fed, not stuffed, but generally in a space where our hunger never really tips more than a sort of 8 out of 10. Because as soon as we tip into an 8 out of 10 on the hunger scale, everything gets harder. It is so much harder to do the work, to hear our emotions, to dial things down when we're in a space of survival and panic and wanting to eat very, very quickly. So we acknowledge this is tough work, but one of the quickest tricks you can make is just remind yourself, I'm not starving. I'm in no danger of death at this point. What I am is very, very hungry. And you might even say out loud, wow, I've just noticed I'm really hungry right now. Great. And then the next thing to do, and this is always available to you, and I should just write it on my shirts, which is like, remember to breathe. Just take a deep breath. This is the most powerful tool you can ever use all the time for just about everything. And always a deep breath in a space of panic will help also just slow things down, calm things down. Now, if your nervous system was in a space of panic, if your emotional signature was desperation, and you want to get it to a place of calm so you can make good decisions about what you're going to eat next, you can tell yourself things like, as you're taking a deep breath, hey, tummy, it's going to be okay. We're really hungry, but you know what? Food's on its way. We can have a bite now. Maybe we'll wait till dinner, but you know what? We're going to be okay. No need to panic. We're not starving. We're just really hungry. And I absolutely am planning to feed you appropriately as soon as I can. And you will be amazed how that level 10 energy can drop down enough so that you can start making good decisions with food. And then lastly, I personally, when I have these experiences, and I catch myself in that very hungry place, and I've told myself I'm starving. If dinner's a couple hours out, or if I'm the one making dinner, which I usually am, I almost always choose to have a snack. I will choose to check in with my tummy. Hey, tummy, what would be the perfect snack? We'll just hold you over until dinner time. Just take that edge off. Choose it very mindfully, dish it up, and then commit to making that meal afterwards, because it's really important for me personally to be able to make a meal without that nagging hunger, because that's when the nibbling happens. And next thing you know, you've eaten the whole meal and it hasn't even gone in the oven yet. You know what I mean? We all know. So awareness in these moments is so key. And that can be a hard thing to train when you're used to going onto autopilot, at the end of a busy day. But it's well worth doing the work. There are probably about 20 other tips I could give you here. But with most things, we start with one, we see if we get a bit of an improvement, and then we just build from there until the habit loops change. And of course, don't forget, if you're somebody who's coming home starving every single day, just about, and this 5 p.m. snack machine or snack attack is just the common experience, I think we can all guess that probably the best thing to do is really prioritize getting in a more substantial meal beforehand. So if your lunch is a really nice meal, you've checked in beautifully, you know you've got a long time until dinner, you know you're going to get home hungry on a normal, the way you used to do it. Now you want to come home hungry, but not starving. You want to be having quite a bit of an appetite for a meal. Tell your body that when it's lunchtime so that you can choose appropriately what to eat in those moments. Too often on these obsessive weight loss, when we're desperate for weight loss, some of the common mistakes we make is underfeeding ourselves to the point is that we are in this situation all the time. And this it never ends well when we arrive home starving. So it's best to be hungry or even very hungry. But trying to hold out can be very, very challenging, particularly when you're tired and your mental energy has already been consumed by a full day's worth of work. Very hard to put actual focus and energy into this work. So the better thing to do, if you notice this is like a daily thing, it's one thing to happen once in a while. It's another thing if every day at 5 you're starving. Then coach recommendation, start prioritizing a more substantial meal and have food with you in alignment with what your tummy wants for breakfast and lunch. I mean, you can have a beautiful, substantial meal at 10 or 11, and it can hold you well over until 5, 6, 7 in the evening. So it's all about making those choices with the time frame coming on, knowing, what's ahead of you, knowing the day you have planned, and eating appropriately. This is why in this work, it's always appropriate to honor our hunger. Our work then is about getting good at eliminating the non-hunger eating, because that's really where the magic is. But ultimately, what we never want to do is put on our bodies in a place of chronic starvation, because ultimately it will rebound and it will come back and bite us in the bum. And we all know that because we've all been on a diet where we ended up gaining all the weight back and then some. And that, my friends, is the power of our body's survival mechanisms. So I hope that was helpful to you today. Good to be with you live at lunch. I will be here next Thursday. If you have any questions you'd like to send through, just pop them in the comments or get hold of me and I'll answer them for you. And other than that, I'd love to see you live at lunch next Thursday. Have a beautiful weekend further. Oh, and if you enjoyed today's live and you found it valuable, por favor, smash the old like button and let me know. And subscribe to the channel if you would. That would be great. And then you'll know that I'm going live. Well, no, I think you have to hit the bell notification to know that I'm going live. So you can do that too if you'd like. Anyway, enough yada yada. I will see you soon. Coach Helen signing out for another live at lunch. And I'll see you next Friday. Adios, everybody. Have a good one. Oh, Thursday.